Volpo Studios.
It's episode 5 of Out of the Darkness. We are flying through these episodes, and at this juncture, let me just say that me, James and Dan have been overwhelmed by some of the messages, positive messages we've been getting given about the podcast, and how hopefully it's helping people that, you know, us three guys and our guests are sitting and talking and about some deep stuff, and hopefully it's making a difference and supporting people. That was always the plan. So the excerpt today comes from page 267. It's the chapter that's called A Sporting Chance. It was the first time really that I encountered counselling and psychotherapists. And it's not for everyone, but if you find the right fit with the therapist or the counsellor, which you'll hear in this show today, with a wonderful psychotherapist called Shelley Smith, it can really help you. And it's one of the things that really helped me turn my life around. I truly believe that talking your problems with anyone really, but especially with a professional, if you find the right fit, can really help you. And it's the first time I met my therapist. His name was Julian. A guy called Chris introduced me to him. Here it is. Chris introduced me to a guy called Julian, who ended up becoming my main counsellor. He was unbelievable. A listener who would just encourage you to dump everything on him from your mind. Then he'd just say something wise at the end to sum it all up and give you a much better understanding of what was going on. Sometimes he'd kill it with something really simple that got through to you. And that's basically what my counselling journey was. All these crazy thoughts, feelings, emotions going on in my mind. And the fact that I could talk to another human being and they could, give you feedback so you could understand what was going on, and to make you not feel so alone. I think that was the big thing, because often we can get very alone in our own minds, and that can lead to, further depression or slipping deeper into the struggle. Today's episode is with Shelley Smith. She's a psychotherapist and a counsellor, and it's a really good episode, and I hope it helps a lot of people. Here it is. So I've got a confession to make. So after the first episode, Shelley, you said you've listened to them all, so I'm going to test your knowledge now. After the first episode, I did say, it was the second episode, sorry, it was the one where us three did it together. Yeah. And I gave you all pointers at the end. What you shouldn't be doing, where you should be putting your mouth. When you're talking to someone else, you do this instead of this, like you were all doing. I've had Broadcast Royalty send me a message this week and say, when the guest is talking, or one of you two are talking, stop saying,
That'd be me, I think.
No, it's me.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So I was telling you two off. And I've just been told off by, I'm not going to mention who it was, but it's Broadcast Royalty.
Really?
Yeah. And he said, the episodes are really good, but you keep going, when the guest is talking. He said, just let them speak.
I suppose you could nod along if they're looking at you, man. Yeah,
but
it's just natural,
it's
though.
It's a processing thing, though, sometimes, isn't it? 'Cause when you're processing or listening, you go, I do that.
I just did
did it then.
You just did it.
Stop moving.
Have to go.
We're a work in progress.
We are. I mean, it's gonna evolve and progress as we go along. But it's quite, I think, a good place to start tonight is what's quite difficult is, because me and you know each other, Shelley, not too well.
Yeah.
I think we've met each other maybe 3 times, 2 on Zoom,
yeah.
1 in person. And then you're invited around someone's house to come and sit and do a podcast. A little French bulldog starts attacking your ankles as you come in.
Oh, he's lovely.
You meet Mrs. Piper for the first time. Dan comes in late. That's a fine, by the way.
Another one.
James is catching up on work at the desk, and it's kind of the way you've handled it. I think is brilliant.
Oh.
And that's not praise. That's sort of, I think those situations can be really difficult
Well,
in
definitely.
life for people.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been toilet today.
Have you been nervous about coming on
Yeah,
today?
really nervous. And this is the thing. It's
Oh.
like when I was obviously I had my clients today, and I was in sessions, and then in the middle, like I was chatting to our people on our team. They're saying, "What you do?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm going on Matt Piper's podcast because that's cancelled last week. Because annoyingly, I lost my voice." And then they're like, "Oh, you'll smash it. You just talk about all the stuff you're passionate about." But it doesn't mean that you don't get nervous. And even like just before I left, I was like, "It's a new place. Obviously I've met you. I don't know everybody, and my stomach's going like it's like if I'm asked to go on the radio." I was saying to my husband in the car, "Why do I do these things that make me feel so sick?" But he says, "Because you're passionate, because you want to do it. So you have to get out of that comfy chair, don't you? And force yourself sometimes. Else your anxiety just talks you out of it." And I'd be texting you saying, "Oh, I'm really ill, I can't do it." So yeah, you just have to crack on and breathe.
We're
Yeah.
big advocates
Well
of that,
done.
aren't we?
Yeah.
Pushing yourself out your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
We spoke
That
about that.
encourages growth, doesn't it?
Yeah, and we spoke about that in the last episode.
Yeah.
And it is difficult. You know, you go and do something new and your stomach's churning, and I often, what you just said, Shelley, that often happens to me, where I think I'm going to say yes to everything that I'm asked.
Yeah.
A lot of the time I think that I'm going to say yes to everything that I'm asked, and then when it comes about, so your automatic response is yes, and then you spend the next however long until that event worrying about it,
Yeah.
thinking about it,
Yeah.
going toilet about it.
Absolutely.
And so what the obvious question here is, what makes you do it?
Well, I think the answer is you just want to either share your story, or you're passionate about raising awareness, or you want to get the message out there like what you're all doing, that it's okay to talk, it's okay to share your difficulties, it's okay to reach out. And I think sometimes, I suppose, as the years go on and you've struggled yourself, or you've got experience of helping other people, it's that drives you to kind of go, as much as I'm anxious about this and as much as I'm scared, I've really got a story to tell, or I really want to help other people. So that kind of forces you to take a bit of control, so that you can kind of breathe, take a minute, focus on your why. And I think that's really important.
I just did that home again.
I'm finding it hard not to.
I know, I am as well. Because what it is, when Shelley gives a real eloquent answer like that, that's so important, you feel as a politeness to go, to show people, to sort of put people at ease.
Yeah.
And so, because when you stared back with a blank face, you're thinking, am I not making sense, or what's wrong with it? And, you know, we have said this podcast is a conversation.
Yeah, and body language and mirroring, different expressions. And it's like, as a therapist, if you've got a client talking to you about their difficulties or really big feelings, if you just sit there with a blank face, they're probably going to think, "Oh, I've said too much, I won't carry on."
So how do you deal with it then, Sean?
So, I mean, obviously when you train in to be a therapist, they teach you about counselling skills and core conditions. But the main thing is, I think, is about creating a safe space. I think that's really important. Because I know a lot of people have tried counselling and psychotherapy, or, different support networks, and it's not been right for them. I think it takes a while to find the right therapeutic fit with a therapist, because you've got to trust the process, you've got to feel safe within the room. That takes time, especially if you've had difficulty in the past with trusting people or building relationships or attachment. It's massive. So I think the main thing for me, and I think this has been a learning curve, because when I first trained to be a therapist, it was like, I've got to be a therapist all the time, and I've got to follow what I've learned, and I've got to follow the theory and the modalities. But actually you bring a part of you, and as much as I might not share everything about my life, I will share if I think it helps somebody. But the main thing is that I help them to feel secure, and that they know that I'm hearing them, that they feel that I can support them in strategies to help them feel soothed and calm, and I recognise if their foot's going or they're feeling anxious, and I can say, actually, let's just take a minute, let's just breathe, let's just have a glass of water.
Yeah.
Because I think the main thing is about feeling safe. If we don't feel safe, we won't do anything.
That's true. And
Yeah.
you're talking, so you obviously feel safe in this room.
I do. And the safety was the warm welcome at the door, being offered a drink, meeting you, and it's like, well, these are nice people, I feel safe.
Yeah,
If
that's
I
good.
felt intimidated, or I thought, oh, I don't fit here, you wouldn't have that sense of belonging. You would feel really scared, and
you'd do it, but you'd sort of be within yourself, and you wouldn't feel open to talk. And
absolutely, because you're thinking part of the brain would go off. So if I felt, well, I do feel anxious, but I'm, passionate about talking. But if you're scared, if you feel angry, if you've got those big feelings, you think if part of the brain does switch off, like you were saying, you'll go into flight, freeze or fight, you're not rationalising your thoughts, you're not able to even take control over what you're saying. And I think that's why, when I work a lot with children and young people and they're maybe being sent out the classroom, or they're not able to go to school, or they're on the verge of being excluded, it's like, who's listening to them? Who's allowing them to feel safe? Because they probably have been labelled as naughty or disrespectful or, troublemaker, and actually they're a person. And I think, sometimes their adapted survival skill gets punished over and over and over. And the shame that they feel and their self-worth that's on the floor is really damaged. So I think, in that moment, if you can't think straight, you're not able to do anything. So just calming yourself and taking a breath and holding on and grounding yourself can really help you to just stay in the present again.
Is it mainly children that you work with then?
I work with all ages. So I work with children, young people and adults.
Yeah.
So my youngest client is 6 and my eldest client is 83.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So that's a
So
good
I
range.
work with females, males, children, teenagers and adults, yeah. And my background before becoming a therapist was working in education. So when I left school, I kind of went into a supportive role in a sixth form college. I worked there for 10 years, and then I became a teaching assistant at Beaumont Leys Secondary School, partly because I thought I wanted a term-time only job because I just have a daughter, and that fit in really well. But secondly, it was just that I really wanted to kind of be in that role where you can be that person that people come to if they're struggling.
Right.
So I retrained to be a teaching assistant, and I stayed there for about 2 years, and then I became an assistant Senko in a secondary school, and then I went down to become an assistant Senko in a primary school, and I didn't go to university till I was 34, till my son went to school.
But you found a real passion for that.
I did.
What was it with that role that sort of ignited that passion? Because I was thinking this, I didn't know you was a Senko before.
Yeah.
Until I was reading the Sunrise website, or no, maybe LinkedIn.
Yeah.
LinkedIn's good for this,
At being a detective.
Yeah, we have to for this. So we've got all the questions ready to go, and a Senko, and then sort of starting your own CIC in Sunrise to help support people of all ages with their mental health. What was the trigger, do you think?
I think the main thing, and this is when I'm doing like training and workshops, I always share this, because when I was moving down from like sixth form to secondary to primary to even to sport early years, people were saying, what are you doing, Shelley? You're going backwards in age. And the reason I did is because I got so sick of sitting in meetings where, teachers or academic staff or maybe outside agencies would come in and they'd say, to parents that, you need to do this, you should be doing this. And they were at a loss, they didn't know what to do. And the children maybe didn't have the early intervention support and had been through so much, and I just used to think it breaks my heart that they haven't had this support. So I think that's kind of what drove me to kind of go down from sixth form to secondary, to then think, actually no, I need to get into primary, I need to make a difference to those 4 and 5 year olds, 6, 7 year olds, teach them how to understand their emotions, where do they feel worry in their body, how does their body react when they feel scared, what can they do, who can they go to for support. So that was my passion. And then after that, obviously doing a lot of training with nursery staff and early years practitioners, and I'll go into university sometimes as well, and I'll just talk for hours about the impact on people's mental health and how we need to support people. Everybody has to have a team around them, because if you don't have a team, you can't do it all on your own.
With the story that you tell, it's more or less the same as the story of FSD. We started with 16 to 19 year olds.
Yeah.
And yes, it was coaching football, but mainly what the FSD is about is life skills and supporting youngsters. And when you start to realise, listen, James can attest to this, boys and girls of the age of 16 to 19, you can still really support them to help them change their ways, their life,
mindset,
develop skills, but it's a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
And as we started working with secondary school students and we started getting really good results, we then thought it would be a good idea to go all the way back to the youngsters where you really can make an impact in helping them shape a positive pathway.
Absolutely, because sometimes it's like, even people would say to me, you know, what's the point of working with, 6, 7-year-olds? Because you need to do it and get in there and support them through mentoring and key working and teaching them when they're older. But actually that's where they're learning, that's where they're forming secure attachments. And, sadly not everyone does have a secure attachment at home. The person that they have that secure base with could be that practitioner or that teacher or that lunchtime supervisor or somebody that offers them, a smile or says, what do you like? Or how's your day today? Or isn't that a beautiful picture? Not everybody has that.
And that interaction could be the most important interaction they'll have in the week.
I always say to
Do you
people,
know what I mean?
there's no positive interaction that's ever wasted. So if it's a smile or if it's for 5 minutes or half an hour, it's firing off those neurons that's allowing you, like we said, to just think, oh, okay, it's not as bad as what I think. Someone's here, someone's valuing me and interested.
Do you know what I think's really difficult though for some people is, and we know, I think, because we work in education, we work with young people, but I was speaking to a guy the other day and he said, how do you talk to kids or teenagers? And he's got 2 girls himself. And he says, could you say anything to them these days and you just get a blank look on your face and they just grunt or they don't say anything? And he said, so what's the point? And I say, no, but those ones that don't look like they're listening at all, they might be the ones that are going away and really take on board what you've said, the smile, the high five, the little cough.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Kids have got so used to now just sort of having blank faces and just and it makes it really difficult for the person that's talking to them, I think, especially if you're a little older, to understand.
Have I reached them?
Yeah.
I guess it is, but you've just got to persevere, haven't you?
Yeah.
Without becoming too sort of pushy and too overbearing, but just they know that you've got their best interests at heart, and that by showing those little actions, I think that shows real support. And it starts to build that relationship. So I think eventually they do tend to start opening up. Well, in my experience anyway, with that age group, when it's come to coaching and being mentors and things like that, initially they're a bit standoffish, a bit. As time goes on, if you are consistent, then you normally find that they turn around.
Consistency is just so important, because again, if you're working with young people who struggle to build trust with people or have had, adversity or experienced trauma, they are going to find it really hard to accept that you're interested, maybe, or that you're going to be consistent. And I know what we see sometimes is, you're building a really good therapeutic relationship, and I used to see this in schools working with children and young people with additional needs as well. But actually, think I've cracked this, we've got a really good relationship, then all of a sudden they'd throw something at you, or they'd say, I hate you, or I'm not talking to you, this is waste of time, you're not helping me, what's the point of me coming here? And actually it is that bit of self-sabotage, because I've got to push you away before you actually leave me. So that all plays out as well. So I think consistency and that unconditional, relationship, and just having that curiosity and asking them questions, sticking with it, I think it makes such a difference.
I can imagine your job in that, when you're working with children or even adults and you get to that point, do you still feel frustration when you feel like you're getting past that, but then it reverts back to, I'm not getting anywhere?
Yeah.
Because I can bet it's really rewarding when you get through to someone, but I bet it can be really frustrating when it goes the other way.
Absolutely. I think it's, it's a roller coaster. I feel privileged that people want to come and share their vulnerability with me, and they want to build that trust, and, they're really investing in themselves no matter what age. But you're on a journey with them, and if they're taking on board your strategies or really opening up to you, and you see that progress in those shifts, that's absolutely amazing. But it's not without ruptures, and it's not without feeling like, am I really helping this person? Am I the right person? Is it are they really valuing this time and space? Even should I be a therapist? I think I should go back to, doing something else. We all have that kind of self-doubt, but one of the main things is that is really important is we have a supervisor, so we can, it's all confidential, but if something's triggered for us as well, a client could be talking about something that's very similar to your own lived experience. It could trigger different things in you, and then that can be hard. There's transference, so you might take on, sometimes I can be working with someone and I'll say to them, I'm feeling this feeling in my stomach, and I don't know if it's sadness, I don't know if it's anxiety, I don't know if it's yours, if it's mine. And just owning that and just sharing that, can be really powerful.
Who's the supervisor? What's that? Is that someone that sort of looks in on what you're doing to...
It's like a third party thing.
Yeah, so everybody in kind of a compassionate role or a caring profession ideally should have a supervisor. So especially kind of for us counsellors and psychotherapists, everybody has a supervisor. So the chain is like therapist has a supervisor, supervisor has a supervisor, supervisor has a supervisor, and I don't know where that ends. But it's so fortnightly you have an hour supervision where you bring to that supervisor any difficulties for you personally or for what's come up in the sessions. Or sometimes if you're feeling stuck with a client, so it might be that you've tried everything in your power and you're just thinking, I don't know where to go here. And it could be that through the supervision, it really helps you to reflect on, okay, there's a bit of my stuff coming out here, what's going on for me? And then to get ideas and, tips on, what about this? And you think, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because sometimes you just have to hear it from somebody else. Like, I suppose as a therapist working with a client, you'd summarise or you'd paraphrase to get them to hear it. And as a therapist, sometimes we need that.
So sometimes, Shelley, it can merge. You don't know if the feelings that are stirred are from what you're hearing or from yourself.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And again, I suppose it's to what level you kind of work therapeutically. Obviously, there's different modalities of therapy and counselling. You could be very person-centred, where maybe you are going with what the client is saying and you're working in their frame of reference, which we all do to a certain extent. But a lot of my work is looking into the past, thinking about attachment, looking at their thoughts and feelings and maybe different messages that were given to them growing up and why they might think that about themselves. So obviously you're working from them really. So you're really kind of within that space yourself to go, okay, so you're not thinking about you're not thinking about what you're doing later, you're purely present. And your body, I mean, the transference amazed me when I first kind of experienced it, because your body will literally feel things that the client is feeling.
Wow.
And it's very powerful.
Have you guys, when we've had guests on, have you come away thinking about, has it stirred anything up in you guys? It has me, like in terms of what I've been through and stuff, and makes you reflect, and it brings things up that we've spoke about before that we've maybe put in a box or put to the back of our minds, and then all of a sudden it's back there. I mean, has it you guys?
I won't say effect, but yeah, it definitely stirs things up, because you start...
Has it not affected your mood or anything? Your moods?
Doing this has made me feel good.
Better, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I enjoy coming talking to you, talking to interesting people and getting people in. And I feel like it gives a purpose to you as well, because
Absolutely.
We're building something.
Absolutely.
And
but has it brought things up though that you might have suppressed?
No, because I'm quite an open book anyway now. I just let my feelings hang out there.
And everyone knows my stories.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean.
You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, and this is what I wanted to sort of touch on with Shelley as well, because when I came out of Sporting Chance, because of how much those guys helped me, the therapists and counsellors in there, I wanted to be a psychotherapist. I told all them that I'm going to be a psychotherapist. They said, listen, you just come out of rehab.
Yeah.
Give it a little bit of time. Yeah. We know you're passionate about it. We know that, you think we're amazing because we've helped you, but give it a little bit of time. And, I went on the first training course, the second, and I started to think some of the stuff that you're talking about would happen, it started to happen to me. What James has just touched on, way too much. And probably it was because I was early in my sort of recovery, but people would or people close to me would tell me things, and I was sort of sitting in the sort of space of a psychotherapist thinking, right, if I was a psychotherapist, tell me. And they would tell me, and it would really affect me, like what James is just talking about.
Yeah.
And I suppose that can be, how do you shut that off?
I mean, this is the thing. It's like you do this because you're caring, like what you were saying. You valued it and you want to make a difference to other people. But I think recognising what's yours and what's the client's is something that you kind of learn. Because I think training to be a therapist, it's about personal development. You're processing your own stuff at the same time as wanting to qualify as a therapist. But I think a lot of grounding, within the counselling room, you kind of create different strategies that might be sitting in a certain way or drinking water or focusing on something you can see to just kind of catch your breath, because you've got stuff happening in your body all the time. And the thing is, what you were explaining, it's like you can have a feelings memory. So for an example, I think I was walking past, like, I don't know, you've got lots of plants and things like in different people's gardens, you've got lots of daffodils coming up, and there was just a scent, and I was like, whoa, that's like, I felt like I was 8 years old. I don't know where that is, whether it's like I remember being in a park or on my bike or out with my mates on my roller skates or whatever, but something happened to me there. And that's the power of your body, because your body remembers everything. And that's great if it's wonderful and beautiful and happy memories, but if it's trauma, adversity, or really difficult times, it can be triggered like that in an instant by any kind of sense. It could be tone of voice, it could be a smell, it could be something you see, it could be a season, it could be anything.
Wow.
So they're the triggers.
Yeah,
Triggers,
People always talk about triggers and things coming back into your mind, or it's setting off an anxiety, and it's finding those triggers to help yourself. You've got to search out what it is.
So you know what your triggers are?
Yeah. Because I think if you can find out what your triggers are, you can sort of act like we were saying the other day. You can help yourself by recognising a trigger and then putting things in place to help yourself.
Managing that feeling.
Yeah. Well, we at
emotion
at FSD, in the alternative provision, that we run, exactly on what you just said, really, what we all felt was really important for the alternative provision students, and we have a policy where the schools give us. So you used to get information about a child.
Yeah.
He's been kicked out of school because of this reason, and can he come this many days a week? He enjoys football. And we as a group, as a staff, were reading that and thinking, this needs to be way more detailed. We want to sit down as a staff, as a group, and really go through everything we want on there, triggers, behaviours. Yeah. Because when you first start in alternative provision, if sometimes we raise our voices in schools, in alternative provisions, you can't do that. But if that kid's got a trigger of what you were just saying, it's huge. And I don't think the education system as a whole looks into that enough.
It's so difficult because since the pandemic as well, when I'm working with nurseries and preschools and, children being the expected school ready to go into foundation, what we're seeing is children that can't leave their parents or carers. They can't focus, they can't sit still, they can't share, they can't sit for long periods of time. And they're hiding away, or they're running out the room and, maybe lashing out. But if we think about it, the pandemic has been a form of trauma for everybody because it's where our life changed in an instant. And that gives you that sense of feeling out of control. And these children now, coming up to kind of primary school, they've all been conditioned for survival. So, when they talk about the difficulties that they're seeing in these children, and actually when you put it into reality and go, well, they learned through masks. Children develop their emotional literacy and awareness through looking at people's faces, interacting with family members, positive touch, going to social groups, whether that's going to the library or, swimming or different parent groups. But actually these children didn't have it. So then you're almost, if you're working with a 4-year-old, you've got to kind of take 2 years off that. So it puts the whole thing into a different kind of context.
Crazy,
and
I've noticed that with the age group that obviously I work with, they're of that age where I think our second years now are they're the last year where their grades were sort of where the teachers sort of
Pick the grades.
Yeah. But their coping skills are not the best.
Well,
their resilience, they've got very little resilience.
Well, the way that because what we hear a lot from government or even in conversation is, COVID's not been good for the youngsters. But no one's really ever come out and said in the detailed way that you just have, what the actual problems are.
It's even swimming lessons and everything. We're seeing it when we take my daughter to swim. She's 6, and everyone that's probably 2 years older than her is in her group. She's made it to their level because they're saying they missed out. So they skipped it. They missed their swimming lessons because they couldn't go in pools.
Yeah.
So she was learning them with kids that are 8 that are struggling, that she's got to the level of now.
The ripple effect of it is massive, and that's the thing, people don't generally talk about it because it's like, that's that thing that happened. Life, I think most people would agree that life's got busier than ever. I think the majority of people would say they're back on that treadmill and it's like just gone faster. And even sometimes people would say, especially, maybe a year ago, I could do with another lockdown. I just need life to stop for a bit, just because everything is just so full on. And if you think about children and young people, they're being told, right, you stay in, you do your homeschooling, you don't leave your parents, you don't mix with anyone, you walk 2 metres away. Now the government are saying, right, we're back on, get back to school, do your exams, stay in class, 5 lessons a day. Go into a playground where it's loud, or it's unpredictable. You don't know whether someone's going to say something to you or how you're going to feel. And the increase of children not being able to go into school because of their anxiety. Every day we hear these stories where parents and carers have to give up their jobs or they can't go into work themselves because they're having to stay at home with their children. And that's why I'm passionate about banging on about this all the time, because people need to know that actually the children and young people that we are supporting now aren't the same as they were before the pandemic.
Right.
And they have to, again, it goes back to feeling safe. If those children don't feel safe in school, if they don't have a safe person, if they don't have a way in that lesson when they feel anxious and they're having a panic attack to get out and they go into that fight, flight, freeze, that school becomes such a scary place.
Yeah.
And even the language, it used to be labelled as school refusal. And again, I'm always saying, actually, they're not refusing to. It's not a choice. Their brain's going, that's like sending you into a fire. You cannot do it unless you feel safe. And that's why I think we all need that space of healing and recovery. And that's going to take time.
Shelley's in charge, running the whole country. No, I'm just...
No
because
pressure.
I'm thinking, back to the pandemic, do you think it was the worst thing that they shut the schools in hindsight? Or my question would be, how have they done it in a better way to support our youngsters? Because they clearly didn't. You just said it there. They opened up and then now get back to normal.
Just get back to it.
Yeah.
And
no
just
care,
sort of threw it on
nothing.
top without any support mechanism there for these kids at all.
No stage return. Was there a stage return, or was
Well,
it
it's not
literally just...
really.
Not really.
Not
It was
really
get on
a
with it.
transition, was there? It was a bit like, okay, now you might be in so many mornings, or now you do so many days, but it was quite full on, very quick. And I think, I do believe everyone's trying the best with the information they know at that time. But if you look back on it, it's not a one size fits all. So some young people will say to me, actually, when I reflect on the pandemic, it was the best thing, because I didn't have to go into social situations. I didn't have to go to school, and it's where I felt anxious. I was with my family and they were lovely. I was doing what I wanted to do, and that was great. But then going back into that place that made you feel anxious to start with, when you're feeling like you haven't got the toolkit to manage it and it's very quick, obviously that's going to throw you out of your kind of safe space and you're going to go into fight, flight, freeze. But then you've got the other young people who maybe still going to nursery or were going to school, and actually that was their safe space. So I don't think there's an easy answer, because I think it's so different. Everybody's got their own kind of story and their own lived experience from that time.
It's a hard one, isn't it?
So one of the real sort of important things, this is selfish from me, and I know you call me the controller, but this is something I really wanted to know, because talking therapies helped me so much. I think therapy gets judged a lot, and I think you mentioned it earlier, you need a period of time to build up and sort of gain that relationship with the person, the client, for it to be able to work. And I really wanted to put that down as a marker in this episode, because talking therapies can save lives. I think it really helped me save mine. And if people only give it a chance, because I think it is really difficult to make a judgment within 5-10 minutes or even the first session and think this ain't for me.
So what you're saying is there's steps within the talking therapy. So there'll be a start point, and then that'll move on to another point, and then before it ends successfully, there'll be an amount of steps that you have to go through, right?
Absolutely. And during that process there can be ruptures. You know, you might, like I said, you might build quite a good therapeutic relationship, but then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this isn't for me. But then as a therapist who's got that connection, you would explore that together. But that's when it all works out wonderfully, because actually people reaching out for counselling or therapy, the fit isn't always right. And it breaks my heart sometimes when people will call us about their child, and you know, it's clear that that parent or carer needs support, and we'll say, who's supporting you? And they say, you know, no one really, I'm just here to help my child. And you know, they might sometimes say, oh, I've had a really bad experience of counselling, or I went to see so-and-so about my grief and they said this, and it's awful, because then that's it, then they don't want to try it again, and they, you know, they've kind of been scarred. It's like, I've reached out. We know how brave it is for people to reach out. We can talk about mental health and feelings all day, but for a lot of people it's really difficult and it's really scary. And the fear sometimes of opening up that box, and what do I do when the lid's off? You know, how am I going to cope with all that stuff, is really daunting for a lot of people. So it is about, I suppose, saying to people that if you have tried counselling and it's not worked out, don't let that put you off forever. It might just be that wasn't the right fit for you. And
or the right time.
Or the right time. You've got to be naturally ready. You know, me training to be a therapist, when I think back to some of the counsellors and therapists I've had, knowing what I know now, and you know, the main things being non-judgmental, providing a safe space, being guided by them. And I think to some of the experiences I've had, I think, oh my goodness, I thought you were amazing, and that's absolutely shocking what you were doing. But people don't go into counselling knowing everything that, you know, a counsellor should be or offer, or even sometimes they don't even know what kind of therapy or what support they need. They just know that life's horrible at that moment and they need help.
Mine wasn't great, but then again, mine was through COVID times, so mine was a phone call. So I think it was every 2 weeks, something like that, and I'd have them conversations with the lady on the phone, and sometimes, I don't know, she'd laugh, and I don't know whether it was a nervous laugh or
What, and you weren't trying to be funny?
No. So she'd laugh at, you know, when you're pouring your heart out, and then there'd be a laugh, and I'm not. And then sometimes you'd hear the computer go, and I think she's not even listening to me. But like you said, you know, if you're not in the room and you can't read people's.
That's bad.
That's bad.
I think
Maybe her husband walked by in the nude or something like that.
Well, that's what I mean. You don't know, do you? But it happened every time.
Yeah, and that could, like you said, that could
It's
be
unprofessional.
their process of their uncomfortable feeling or whatever that was. But actually, you, as a client, you should feel that therapist is there for you, and that's all they're focusing on. And I think if somebody's laughing, I've had a therapist before that used to slag off the husband, and then another one that used to yawn, and I used to leave thinking, I'm really boring, this person. But knowing what I know now, like, that is not good.
No.
That is not on.
Have you yourself had therapy before then?
Yeah. So I first had counselling when I was 16. Yeah, where my parents separated, and then I've had various therapy throughout my life for different things.
Was that the trigger then for you to get into it? Was that a real positive experience for you at 16?
No.
Oh, so
No, absolutely not. I mean, I remember going there and booking the appointment. I was only 16 and thinking, don't really have anyone to talk to. I need to talk to somebody because I need to kind of get this all out. And I remember thinking, I'm not going to talk. I don't know what to say. I don't feel comfortable at all. And actually, I did go, and the counsellor, was okay, but I just didn't get that fit. And obviously I was quite young at the time as well, and this was an adult. So it was quite different for me. But I do remember actually coming out thinking, I didn't actually stop talking. So I thought, that's a positive.
You did talk.
So I was. But I think
wow.
I was kind of forcing myself just to talk, because I think I had so much to get out. And but then throughout my life I've had different therapy for different things. And looking back on that now, I mean, some of it was positive, but some of the things like what we were just saying, I just think actually that really put me off opening up.
The thing that, America is, I think there's a little bit of a stigma in this country for talking therapies. I really do. I don't hear anyone slagging it off or anything like that, but the amount of, maybe it's just where we live, I don't know. I don't know if it's, more popular in London or more sort of thought in a positive way in sort of the bigger cities. But you, all the time in America especially, and I'm going off the TV, but I'm going off documentaries as well, nearly everyone's got a therapist.
Yeah, and I think it's so normalised there that it's okay to talk about your feelings. If you're struggling at work or you're struggling with your family or in your relationship, you would go and see a therapist. It is, and even in Australia, places like that, therapy is kind of like going to the dentist or going to the doctors. But here, there is this huge stigma. And even as a therapist, when I started to train, it's like people would say to me, don't analyse me, don't look into my eyes, don't, I just want to go for a drink. I don't want you to be kind of over-analysing me. But that's not like, I'm still me. But it is, and like people, sometimes will say, I'm not at that stage where I need help, or I'm not that bad. But if something's affecting your life and you can't function or you can't do the things you want to do, then actually it can be really life-changing just to have a space where you can express and process things. And what you were saying before it's about growing an awareness, learning about yourself, learning your triggers so that you can take control.
Right.
So you can catch it. You can catch that feeling in your stomach, or you can catch that feeling when your heart's racing or your legs going, so that you can think, right, what do I need? What is going to help me to feel grounded and calm everything down in my nervous system, so that you can do the things that you want to do.
When you say catch, is that recognise?
Yeah, so what I mean by that is like what we were talking about. So if you're nervous or anxious, your body will know before our brains do how we feel. But sometimes we're so busy and the thoughts are so loud, we can't think straight, that actually we won't recognise it. So we might have been anxious or angry 3 hours ago, but unless we connected with our body, which we can't all do all the time, it takes over us. And we see that a lot in children as well, that they go from 0 to 10 really quickly because they haven't got those steps beforehand.
Wow.
I know.
It's super, super interesting.
Because it's like, I just want to sit here and start picking your brains and asking questions. Just leave these two to it. We need to talk.
Yeah, we'll do it.
But if that's something that your body's going, no, this is interesting. We sometimes underestimate what our bodies are telling us. And I always say to clients, if your brain is going, I need to do this, it's not a choice, it's something we need to do.
With talking therapies, so I had a guy, and he didn't say much. He never used to say much. I don't know if you're the type that talks a lot, but he never really said much. And but the way that he just sat, how you've spoke about, this is why I'm finding it super interesting, because everything that you've spoke about is what I sort of witnessed. The way that he sat, the way that he looked at you, the way that he held his cup of tea, and you said something, because in therapy, this is what I did anyway, you sort of test something. You sort of say, I can't say everything. I can't dump all this shit on him straight away. So I'm just going to say this and let's see his reaction. And some of my stuff's horrific. Some, you know, what happened, and, you know, some of the stuff was terrible. And he was just used to go, and what? Carry on. And I used to, oh shit, he's passed the test. Julian, his name was. He was brilliant. And throughout all these episodes, I think we've all mentioned the toolbox. And what's important for people to understand from this episode, I think, is sometimes the way that you build the toolbox is by understanding it, but also talking to someone that can really help you choose the tools you're going to put in it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time we don't know the tools.
Yeah.
Exactly. We don't know all this stuff. You know, everything I've been talking about today, we're not born knowing it.
No, it's
And
true.
some people never know this stuff. That's why I'm always trying to talk about it as much as I can. But you need support to know what tools work, give them a go, have the confidence to try them with support, and then you can go, right, I tried that breathing exercise and that really helped me, so that's going in the toolkit. I tried that meditation, or I was, you know, tried a bit of mindfulness, that's going in the toolkit. I tried, you know, a certain breathing technique, well, that didn't work, so I'm not going to put that in the toolkit. But again, it's regularly checking in with your tools, because things can change. And the key factor is practicing when you feel calm. Because some people will think, I'll leave my toolkit and I'll use my tools when I need it. But we know your thinking brain's gone and your toolkit's all over the floor. You can't access it. So the more we practice when we're calm and our nervous system is settled, the more our brain goes, oh, I know when that happens in my body, what we can do. We can do this breathing, or we can focus on something I can see. Or hold my hands, or ground myself, or put my feet firmly on the floor, or whatever it is that is in your toolkit that really works.
I think the way that we lift the lid on the stigma that is clearly in this country, for whatever reason, because it is, you wouldn't be down the pub, and, you know, I think it's with all mental health, you wouldn't be down there and say, oh, what are you doing tomorrow night? Oh, I'm going five-a-side football. What are you doing? Oh, I'm going to see my therapist. Not a lot of people talk like that, whereas in America and other countries, they do.
And prioritise it as well.
Yes.
I'm seeing my therapist, so no, I can't meet you. Or
Yeah, but we prioritise in this country physical health really high.
Yeah.
But mental health and, you know, talking to a therapist or using, you know, different tools to try and help yourself is really low on the priority list, I think.
I use it as a secondary, because I go to have a massage every month, and I always say he's like my therapist. But so I say, I'll go for a massage tonight, can't wait. He's like my therapist, so it's a secondary, but it's someone to go and talk to, because I don't know whether it is like I need that talking therapy.
But he is a counsellor as well.
Well, yeah, I think he is.
Yeah.
well, he is now.
Yeah.
No, he is. He's a qualified counsellor.
Just don't pay him for it.
Great. But you're obviously benefiting from that, because like you said there, maybe it's what I need. If you come out from that massage and you physically feel that's been good, but also you've released some stuff that maybe you were holding in or suppressing, then that ticks the physical health and the mental health. And we know you can't have one without the other. So like if you're working with people in sports and they've got a physical injury, how they're a human being, how can they not have an emotional response to that?
I think we've all struggled with that. I mean, especially me, the mental health was just not even a talking subject to anyone. And I've had 20 knee operations. You know, all the time in the injury room, no one once said, how's your mind? You know, you get back to fitness, injured again. Get back to fitness.
It's always,
injured again.
how is it? How's the knees?
Yeah, how's your knees? If you were a racehorse, perhaps you'd be shot by now. That's what they used to say to me. And just going back
I know
to
that was then.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I did it too
Right,
well.
Mick.
Mick McCarthy. Just going back to the old one, and I just think it highlights how much of a cheapskate you are, to be honest. He's trying to get a 2-for-1 deal, isn't it? With the masseur.
It is.
How he was pretending. I didn't know he was a counsellor. I've seen him for 20 years and he's a counsellor. He's trying to get a 2-for-1 deal.
But, you know, I used to do sports massage. I'm still qualified, but I haven't done it for a long time since I've moved back to this country. But people do tend to talk to you a lot, but then you get some that don't say a word. Do you know what I mean? So I understand why you would naturally just start talking, because you're becoming at ease and do you know what I mean?
Well, he asks questions as well.
Oh, okay.
How's your day been? What's going on with you? Like, what are you up to? And things like that, which brings it out. It's just a conversation. I mean, most of the time, really, if I was going for a massage, I'd think, I don't really want to speak. I'd be like the general
Is it sports
population.
Sports
Sports massage.
Oh, so
Yeah.
it's
So
deep
sometimes
tissue,
I can't speak.
But isn't it that old adage as well of the best conversations I have with some of my boys is in the car, when you're not facing each other,
Yeah.
you're not looking at each other's eyes, there's something else going on. And normally at the massage, you're either face down, you're looking up at the ceiling, he's further down the thing, and it's not as
intense.
it's not as intense, is it?
Yeah, because it's like, even if you go to the barbers or the hairdressers, sometimes that's a person's only outlet to even talk about, what's been going well, you're going on your holiday, and they might share that, because if they build a relationship like you have with your, you go for your massage, but also it's, you feel safe, you feel comfortable to trust that you can share whatever it is you need to.
Yeah.
It's so important, isn't it?
And he's quite insightful as well, so I will ask questions on mental health things.
Yeah.
Because, I'm going over old ground, but I was going away on holiday, and I'd come off my sertraline, I tapered it down, I'd come off it, and I only made it 2 weeks, and then I started getting a bit anxious about taking young ones on holiday and what's it going to be like and things like that. And he was just like, just go back on them.
Yeah.
And then when you come back, then start again.
Yeah.
Come off them. But saying I didn't put things into place, I don't know. Well, talking therapy might be a thing that I need to put in place.
Yeah,
But
you
I'm
could
do-
always give it a go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think you should. I've told you how important it was for me, and then I left rehab, and then I continued it for a year in London. So once a week, I catch the train down to London for another 13, 14 months until I felt I got to a point in my life where it helped me gain a lot more tools. I understood myself much better. The phrase that you used, Shelley, I was good at sort of catching those feelings.
Yeah.
I can see what this is, or I can feel it coming. I'll put things in place, and it really helped. It was one of the major things that helped me turn my life around. So I'm a big advocate for talking therapies. Just to lift the lid on it a little bit more, I think if people understood more about it, because there's so many. I was looking on your LinkedIn. I already knew this personally, but let me just run through this list and what the different things are. Some of them are obvious, but so you've got your yoga, reflexology, meditation, hypnotherapy, occupational therapy, play therapy, psychotherapeutic, integrative counsellor, clinical psychologist, person-centered counsellor, and then obviously you've got your psychotherapy. There's lots.
It's a minefield.
It is, isn't it?
I wonder people.
Is that
kind
just
of,
your?
So we offer. But we offer holistic and therapeutic support.
This is not just Shelley's
Shelley's.
list,
Yeah.
but this is the whole of Sunrise.
Oh, the whole of Sunrise.
And the practitioners that they use. A lot of this is listed under certain practitioners, because I was thinking occupational therapy, or the other one was integrative.
Yeah.
And I was trying to work
Do you want me
out.
to tell you?
Yes.
And this is
please.
why when people reach out to us and they fill out the referral form, because anybody can self-refer, we do an initial assessment where it is about an hour of kind of getting to know them, their lived experience, and we say to them, it doesn't matter if you don't know what you need at this point. This is about us having a conversation, finding out how best we can support you. And sometimes we're not the right place for them, and we can try and signpost them to other services. But not everybody knows about all these modalities and what is right for them. Or
Is that what they're called? Modalities?
yeah, so different modalities are person-centered and CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy, attachment, play therapy, art therapy, music therapy. You know, they're all different modalities and techniques that can work in different ways. An integrative psychotherapist is what I trained as. So my modality or approach is like, the easy way to explain it, it's like I have a toolkit, and again, it's not a one size fits all. So we all pride ourselves on all the therapy and all the counselling and support being adapted to individual need. So it's not right, you come and you have CBT and that's it. Because, you know, again, with the NHS model, a lot of the time is you have 6 to 8 weeks of CBT. Well, that's quite short term, and actually that might support you with some strategies of how to get through. But if you're bringing up a lot of stuff from the past, you need maybe more attachment or deeper work of the past.
So these are different. So CBT is quite one of the more well-known ones,
Yeah.
I think. Cognitive brain therapy. Behavioural therapy.
Yeah.
And that would be different from person-centred
Yeah,
therapy.
so some people are purely person-centred. Again, I believe that all therapists are person-centred because that is, well, it's what it says really. You're there to support the person, you're working in, you know, with whatever they bring. It's about creating a safe space, being empathetic, completely non-judgmental. That is person-centred.
Got you.
Right.
Then on top of that, you've got, again, different therapists who may... So whereas a person-centred therapist, if a client was talking about their day-to-day life and their thoughts, they would maybe work with that, what they're bringing in the room. As an integrative psychotherapist working from an attachment modality, I might be more curious about, you know, when your mind's kind of being quite critical of you and telling you you're rubbish and you're not good enough or you're unlovable, you know, where is that coming from? You know, It's like piecing together a jigsaw.
Yes.
Because then what that's doing, it's supporting the person to connect safely. And that's why grounding is really important, breathing, feeling safe, to connect with some things from the past, but then to use that with more awareness in the present so they can think, okay, well, I know my brain's telling me I'm rubbish and that's going to be, you know, crap and I'm not going to do it. But actually, that's an old message. I can do it. I am good enough. I've done it before. I've got evidence that actually people did want to listen. So I'm going to do it. So that's the difference. You're understanding where some of the thoughts and feelings and beliefs come from.
That's what I'm trying to dig away at.
But did you know that there was different kind of psychotherapist counsellors?
No.
No, I knew there was different names, but I've always wondered. I mean, I've had therapy, and this is what I mean. Especially in this country, I don't think if people knew this more, like I've just been enlightened.
Because you just think people think a therapist is a therapist. That's
They're therapists. They talk
just gotta
about
talk.
this. They just let you talk, and they just sit there and they don't say anything, and they just go, tell me more.
Yeah.
You know, because when people are being nasty about therapy, they're the sort of, that's the stick that they beat the sort of therapist with, isn't it?
It is, and even like they might see a fee like £50 for the hour or £60, and you know I've had it where people might say £50 an hour, that's loads, but you take off your supervision, your insurance, you have to be a member of a professional body, your own therapy if that's what you're having, plus your self-care, so if you're doing yoga or doing something to make sure you're okay, that all adds up. And then also if things are triggered for you and you need extra supervision or a bit of extra support, that all plays a part.
because you're human too.
Exactly,
Well,
yeah, we're all human.
Yeah, we are. But Shelley, for me, you don't even have to explain that. What it should be is, and this is what's happening in this country, what's wrong at the minute, I think, personal training session for your body is anywhere between 35, 40 quid up to 70 quid. Now that is physical, and this is what I was talking about earlier, that is physical health. People are paying that all the time. But when you talk about, why don't you pay 50 quid for a therapy session for your mind, and that's the narrative. Listen, we're only going to swing the dial, even if this is one of the most successful mental health podcasts ever. We're going to shift the dial 0.01%, but if we can do it, I want to do it. And it's about getting people like you on to talk how you've spoken tonight, give us a better insight of what you do. deliver it in the eloquent way that you have. Well, I've not even said eloquent way. Imagine that. But I don't care how I sound. We just want to put people in front of you and that you can listen to that are gonna really help and support you. And because it helped me, I had that shocker. I might have never gone back, but I went back and it helped me be the person I am now. Do you know what I mean?
I could have quite easily gone the other way, right? Could have quite easily.
Especially with my ego and pride.
I'm not going to go to.
She shook her head at me. How dare she? She didn't even listen to what I had to say. That could have done me forever.
And that's the thing it does to some people. They will then try and deal with all that on their own or put that lid back on, and for years and years, that's it. So I think investing in yourself, I think we sometimes, we say it's a fee, but it's an investment in yourself. You're paying this money because it is you valuing that you are worthy of having a space to work out why you think a certain way or why you do a certain thing, and to be a bit freer and to have more control.
Well, I think we say this after every episode, Shelley. Honestly, we do. I think there's so much that's still got to be said between us.
That's flown by.
It has. Big Dave will be outside waiting for you.
Getting his all going now.
He'll have his book ready to sign it.
Yeah. Where is it? Where is she? We've said it nearly on every episode, but that's because we get good guests on. We're good at getting good guests on. And there's so much more to say, I think, because if we are going to start chipping away at this stigma of, talking therapies, especially in this country, I think, we need to highlight it a lot more.
I'm thinking you could just come in every week talking about me being a cheapskate.
Look, he's doing it again. He's doing it again. It's his angle. Trying to get an angle in it. He's done it with massage, now he's doing it with the podcast. Yeah. Absolutely outrageous.
The mics on.
What I think could be great next time, because of all the things that I listed, Shelley, and it was because I was, looking through the many qualities of the practitioners that you are your colleagues and that you work with, and they all, bring different qualities and have learned in different areas of psychotherapy and counselling. Imagine next time, and you won't feel as nervous next time because it'll be your second time. Yeah. But also, what happens if we said to you, "Why don't you bring two of your colleagues?"
I'll definitely bring my colleagues.
Let's bring two of your colleagues. I'll get two more microphones, and we'll sit down. Maybe we do it at sunrise.
Yeah.
On the run.
On the run. James has had this this is a little exclusive for everyone listening. James has had this really good idea. Maybe not season 2, but season 3, we wanted to do Out the Darkness on the Run, where we do it away from this studio.
Sounds great.
And we could base that at sunrise.
Out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
It came about because I got a caravan.
Did you?
So I started saying, we'll go on the run, take it out there.
Yeah, we're going to do one episode in the caravan, but I thought one episode at
Come
sunrise.
To sunrise. We'd welcome you with open arms. You can get to see the different therapy rooms. We really value creating a safe space. It's in a house, so it's really homely.
It's beautiful.
It'd be great to share it with you.
Do you set it up as thinking like that to make it look aesthetically a safe place?
Absolutely, so important
welcoming,
to me. Yeah, because I opened it during the pandemic.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so I got a business plan and a business loan, and it was all falling into place. And then the pandemic hit, and I had 2 houses to pay for. And then that was a bit of a nightmare, but I had a vision, and I really wanted it to become a hub for all ages where people could go. And it's just, the demand is huge, as we know, but it is really important to have consistency and safety and feel secure.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Well, I've been there,
Great to
and
show you.
it's everything that she says and more.
Oh.
It was beautiful. It really was, really welcoming. Cake was good.
Good.
Biscuits were biscuits were good. The tea was good, and the company and you and your colleagues were lovely. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on the podcast, Shelley. It's been an absolute pleasure. Just give anyone listening, how can they contact Sunrise, get in touch with Sunrise, Sunrise's website, all the details.
So our website is Sunrise Wellbeing. We share lots of things on our social media channels because we always want to showcase all of the different things we're doing for different ages. But my message to everyone would be, you know, if you've had a bad experience of counselling or therapy, or if you're not sure about it, reach out to us. We're all lovely. It's a safe space. You know, we can just have that time where we can just kind of talk to you about the different modalities and different approaches, and you know, you can then gain evidence of whether it is right for you, and we can give it time, you know, and if it's not right, we will support you in finding another therapist or a different approach. So yeah, please do contact us if you need any support for whether it's your child or yourself or someone in your care.
Nice.
Amazing.
Shelley, it's been an absolute pleasure. Big Dave's on the front waiting to pick you up. We will see you again in series 2, no doubt.
That's fab. I just want to quickly say well done to you three, because I think this is absolutely life-changing, and I think it will make a really, really big difference, and you should all be so proud of yourself for doing it.
Oh, thank you.
Wow.
We're all blushing. We are all blushing.
It's amazing.
That is.
It's all gone red. How? I don't know how.
Well, we've never had praise like that before.
It's so important. It's so important.
Well, it's talking.
Yeah.
It's talking and sharing and digging deep on your soul, and I learnt that in talking therapies. So go and talk, people.
Yeah. Invest in
Brilliant.
yourself because
Yes.
you matter.
Lovely.
Oh,
what a way to finish. Thank you, Shelley.
Great episode.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thanks, Shelley. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.